Your neighbor waters his lawn. You wave. He waves back. The house on the corner has a perfectly manicured garden. You admire it every time you walk by. The quiet man who works in the next cubicle always has a tidy desk. You think nothing of it. We live our lives surrounded by routines, by the predictable and the mundane. The world feels safe because it feels familiar. We trust the surfaces we see. We believe in the quiet smiles and the friendly greetings. But what if that trust is a mistake? What if the ordinary is just a mask? A carefully constructed facade designed to hide something truly monstrous, something that defies belief. You think you know the people you see every day. You believe you can judge a book by its cover, a person by their home. But tonight, we are going to shatter that illusion. We will show you that the most terrifying secrets are not buried in remote forests or hidden in secret lairs. They are right there, next to you. In the house, across the street, in the yard you pass on your morning run. The evidence was never hidden. It was simply overlooked. You saw it. You just didn't know what you were looking at. The key to solving a horrific crime was sitting there, in plain sight, for years. What if the flower bed your neighbor tends so lovingly holds more than just roses? What if the concrete patio poured in the backyard wasn't just for summer barbecues? These questions might seem like something from a horror movie, a work of fiction designed to make you jump. But the stories we are about to tell are real. They are the chilling accounts of killers, kidnappers, and criminals who live quietly among us. They smiled, they worked, they went about their days just like everyone else. All the while, the proof of their terrible deeds was right there, a silent testament to the evil they had committed, waiting to be discovered. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on these ordinary monsters. We are going to take you inside their homes, into their yards, and into their minds. We promise you a reveal that will make your skin crawl. You will see how a simple, everyday object, a tool in a shed, a strange patch of dirt, a forgotten item on a shelf, became the key that unlocked a dark and terrible truth. This is a journey into the heart of human blindness, a story that proves the most dangerous thing in the world is the evil we refuse to see, even when it's staring us right in the face. The rules for tonight are simple. As I speak, you will see subtitles, one word at a time, in all capital letters. The highlighted word will match my voice. This isn't just for effect, it's to make you focus, to force you to pay attention to every single detail, just as the investigators eventually had to. This is how you find the truth that is hiding in plain sight. You must slow down, you must look closer, you must question everything you think you know about the world around you, because the line between normal and nightmarish is thinner than you could ever possibly imagine. The killer wants you to be distracted. Don't be. Our theme tonight is about the incredible, terrifying ability of criminals to use our own assumptions against us. They don't need elaborate schemes or secret bunkers. A normal-looking house, a predictable routine, our collective tendency to look away. Why would anyone suspect the friendly family man? Why would anyone question the new concrete slab in the backyard? We see what we expect to see, and a monster living next door is something none of us ever expect to see. This psychological blind spot is the criminal's greatest weapon, a shield of normalcy that protects them for years. Think about your own home, your own yard, the places you know so well, you barely notice them anymore. The dusty corner of the garage, the cluttered shelf in the basement, the overgrown patch of weeds behind the shed. These are the blind spots. These are the places where secrets can fester, unnoticed and undisturbed. The stories you will hear tonight are about people who exploited these exact kinds of spaces. They understood that the best place to hide something is the place where no one ever thinks to look. A place that is so visible, it becomes invisible to the casual observer. We will explore the shock that ripples through a community when the truth is finally revealed. The disbelief, the denial, the horrifying realization that a friend, a neighbor, a coworker was capable of such darkness. We will follow the investigators as they piece together the puzzle, often starting with a single, seemingly insignificant clue that was there all along, a clue that was missed by dozens of people for months or even years. This is a story about the evil that lurks beneath the surface of everyday life, and a chilling reminder that you never truly know what secrets are buried just a few feet away. Our first story takes us to a quiet, tree-lined street, a place called Melrose Avenue. It looks like any other suburban neighborhood in America. The houses are modest, the lawns are neat, the people are friendly. It was here, in the city of Akron, Ohio, that a man named Michael P. lived. To his neighbors, Michael was just a quiet guy. A bit of a loner, perhaps. Harmless. He kept to himself. He mowed his lawn. He fixed his car. You would see him 100 times and never give a second thought. Part of the background, unremarkable on a remarkable street. Michael was a handyman by trade, known for his skill with tools, able to fix just about anything. His yard was cluttered with projects, bits of machinery, old parts. No one thought much of it, that was just Michael. His house, a simple 2-story home, was his sanctuary. He had lived there for years, constant, predictable. Neighbors would see him in the garage at all hours, a single light bulb, spilling into the dark. Saws and hammers, the normal sounds of a man who worked with his hands. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Nothing at all. He wasn't one for barbecues or block parties. Interactions were brief. A polite nod, or a short wave. People called him shy, maybe awkward. No one called him dangerous, just the quiet man at the end of the block. The normalcy of his life was his camouflage, a perfectly tailored costume of mediocrity. He moved through the world without attracting attention. That invisibility let him hide a secret so dark it would shatter Melrose Avenue. For years he went about his life. He went to work. He came home. He tinkered in his yard. A ghost in plain sight. Seen, but not truly seen. They saw the quiet neighbor, the skilled handyman, the harmless recluse. They did not see the monster beneath the calm surface. They had no idea the house they passed every day was more than a home. It was a tomb. And the evidence of his crime was not buried in some remote location. It was right there, in his own backyard. Before we can understand the secret Michael was hiding, we have to go back in time, back to a warm summer day in 1980. This is when the story truly begins. It begins with a young woman named Joanne. She was bright, full of life. She had her whole future ahead of her. She was a daughter. She was a sister. She was a friend. But most importantly to our story, she was Michael's wife. They were a young couple, trying to build a life together in that small house on Melrose Avenue. From the outside, their life seemed normal enough. But inside those walls, things were beginning to unravel in a terrifying way. One day Joanne simply vanished. She was there one moment, and gone the next. Her family was frantic. They called her friends. They called her workplace. No one had seen her. No one had heard from her. It was as if she had been erased from the face of the earth. When her worried family confronted Michael, he had a simple, rehearsed story ready for them. He told them they had a fight, a bad one. He claimed that Joanne, in a fit of anger, had packed a bag and left him. She had joined some sort of religious group, he said, and didn't want to be contacted by anyone. The story seemed plausible, if a little strange. It was the 1980s. Stories of people leaving their old lives behind to join New Age communes or religious sects were not unheard of. Joanne's family was heartbroken. But what could they do? Michael was her husband. He seemed distraught. He told them she had called once from a payphone to say she was okay, but that she needed to be left alone to find herself. It was a cruel and calculated lie, designed to plant a seed of doubt and to stop them from looking any further. It was a story that would hold for a very, very long time. And so the police investigation stalled. There was no evidence of foul play. There was only the word of a seemingly grieving husband. Joanne became another face on a missing persons poster. Her family clung to the hope that she might one day return. They sent letters to the address of the religious group Michael had mentioned, but they were all returned, unopened. As months turned into years, the hope began to fade. The questions remained, but the trail had gone cold, and all the while, Michael P. continued to live his quiet life in the house on Melrose Avenue, the only person in the world who knew the terrible truth. For more than a decade, life on Melrose Avenue continued its peaceful, predictable rhythm. Children grew up, new families moved in. Memory of the woman who had disappeared began to fade for everyone except her family. Michael P. remained in the house. He never remarried. He never even dated, as far as anyone knew. He just continued his solitary existence. He became more of a recluse. Interactions with neighbors grew rarer. The yard grew cluttered. The house looked more run down. Nothing seemed sinister, just the sad, lonely home of a man whose wife had left him years ago. Michael made a few changes to the property. One of the most significant was in his basement. He told a neighbor he was tired of the dampness and musty smell from the old dirt cellar floor. He decided to pour a concrete slab. He did the work himself. He was a handyman. No one thought it was strange. It seemed like a smart home improvement project. What no one knew, this was not a home improvement project. It was an act of concealment. The final, critical step in hiding his terrible secret. He was not just covering a dirt floor. He was entombing the truth, creating a permanent, solid barrier between his crime and the outside world. Every bag of cement he mixed, every inch of concrete he smoothed over, he was building a monument to his own evil in his home's foundation, a place no one would think to look, a secret sealed in stone. For years, Michael walked on that concrete floor. He stored his tools on it. He did his laundry over it. He lived his life directly on top of the evidence. The secret was just inches beneath his feet, every single day. Neighbors who walked by. The mailman delivering his letters. The few who stepped inside, none had any idea. The truth was there. It was solid. It was immovable. It was hiding in the most obvious place imaginable. The floor itself. The silence of the house was absolute, guarding a secret that was waiting patiently in the dark. Years passed. The 1980s, the 1990s. The world changed, but the house on Melrose Avenue remained a strange time capsule. Michael P. continued to live there, growing older, more isolated, but eventually, even his quiet, solitary life came to an end. In the mid-1990s, Michael passed away from natural causes. He died alone in the house where he had harbored his dark secret for so long. With his death, the house was finally put up for sale. It was old, cluttered, needed a lot of work, but it was in a decent neighborhood. It was an opportunity for a fresh start, for a new family to bring life back into the silent home. That new family was the Classens. They were excited to own their first home. They knew it was a fixer-upper, but they were young and full of energy. They saw potential in the old house. They planned to clean it out, renovate it, and make it their own. They started with the yard, clearing away years of accumulated junk that Michael had left behind. Then they moved inside, room by room, tearing out old carpets, painting walls, and slowly erasing the memory of the quiet, reclusive man who had lived there for so long. They were building their future on the foundation of his past. One of the last projects on their list was the basement. It was dark, damp, and creepy. The concrete floor that Michael had poured years ago was rough and uneven. It was poorly done, a sloppy job that sloped awkwardly toward one corner. The Classens decided it had to go. They wanted to dig out the basement to make the ceiling higher and pour a new level floor. They wanted to transform the dark, forgotten space into a usable family room. It was an ambitious project, but they were determined. They had no idea that their home renovation project was about to become a criminal investigation. They began the back-breaking work of breaking up the old concrete. They rented a jackhammer, and piece by piece they started to demolish the slab that Michael had so carefully installed. The noise was deafening, filling the old house with a violent roar. Dust filled the air. With every piece of concrete they pulled up, they were getting closer. They were unknowingly dismantling the final barrier. They were cracking open the tomb that had been sealed for over a decade. They thought they were just fixing a floor. In reality, they were about to uncover the terrible secret of Melrose Avenue. The work was slow and exhausting. Day after day the Classens hammered away at the thick concrete slab. Then, one afternoon, something changed. As they were working in a corner of the basement, they noticed a strange smell. It was a foul, earthy odor that seemed to get stronger as they cleared away more of the broken concrete. They initially dismissed it. Old houses have strange smells. It was probably just damp earth or a broken sewer pipe. They kept working, trying to ignore the increasingly unpleasant stench that was filling the small, enclosed space. It was a smell of decay, of something long forgotten, and it was getting worse. As they lifted another large chunk of concrete, they saw it. Underneath the solid slab, there was a strange depression in the dirt. It was a shallow pit, deliberately dug, and inside that pit, there was something wrapped in a green plastic sheet, like a tarp. It was a bundle, about 5 feet long. A chilling realization began to dawn on them. This was not a broken pipe. This was not normal. The smell was now overpowering, a sickly, sweet odor of decomposition that caught in the back of their throats. Their hearts began to pound in their chests. What had they found? Hesitantly, One of them reached down and touched the plastic sheet. It was brittle with age. With trembling hands, they pulled back a corner of the wrapping. They immediately recoiled in horror. What they saw was undeniable, a sight that would be seared into their memories forever. It was human, a human bone, a human skull. They were staring into the empty eye sockets of a human skeleton. They scrambled backwards, out of the pit, up the basement stairs, out of the house, gasping for fresh air. The truth, buried for 15 years, had finally been unearthed by a home renovation project. They called 911 immediately. Within minutes, the quiet street was swarming with police cars, news vans. The house on Melrose Avenue, once a symbol of quiet solitude, was now the center of a media frenzy. Forensic investigators descended into the basement, the same basement where Michael P. had walked for years. They carefully excavated the makeshift grave, uncovering the full skeleton. Dental records would soon confirm the unthinkable. The remains belonged to Joanne, the young woman who had vanished without a trace all those years ago. Michael's story about the religious group had been a lie. The whole time, she had been right there, buried beneath a slab of concrete, her silent tomb hidden in plain sight. The case of Michael P. is horrifying, but it is not unique. It is a chilling example of a pattern, a method used by criminals who understand a fundamental weakness in the human mind. We are programmed for pattern recognition. We look for the familiar. We look for the predictable. When we see it, our brains categorize it as safe and move on. This mental shortcut, this efficiency, allows us to navigate a complex world without being overwhelmed. But it is also the very thing that criminals exploit. They don't need to build a secret lair. They just need to create a believable illusion of normalcy. The best place to hide is not in the shadows, but under the brightest, most boring light. This is the psychology of invisibility. The criminal wraps their secret in layers of the mundane. They mow the lawn. They take out the trash. They go to work. They perform the 1,000 tiny rituals of everyday life that signal to everyone around them. I am just like you. There's nothing to see here. This performance is their most powerful weapon. It creates a powerful cognitive bias in their neighbors, in their friends, and even in family. Once we have labeled someone as normal or harmless, our brains will actively resist information that contradicts that label. We subconsciously filter out the small oddities, the strange noises, the lingering questions, because to accept them would be to accept that our world is not as safe as we believe. You have likely seen experiments demonstrating this phenomenon. A person in a gorilla suit walks through a group of people passing a basketball, and a significant number of viewers, tasked with counting the passes, never even see the gorilla. The gorilla is in plain sight, but because the viewer's attention is focused elsewhere, it becomes functionally invisible. The killer who buries a body in their own backyard is relying on this same principle. They know that your attention is focused on the flowers they planted on top, the friendly wave they give you, the neatness of their lawn. You are not looking for a grave, so you do not see one. This is not a failure of intelligence or observation on the part of the community. It is a feature of how our brains are wired to survive. We are social creatures who depend on trusting the people around us. To live in a state of constant suspicion would be mentally exhausting and socially isolating. The predator who hides in plain sight understands this social contract better than anyone. They know that we want to believe in the goodness of our neighbors. They know we want to feel safe in our homes. And they use our own desire for a peaceful, predictable world as the ultimate camouflage for their unimaginable darkness. The methods of concealment are often shockingly simple, relying on the ordinary objects and spaces of suburban life. The backyard is a common choice. It is a private space, but one with a plausible reason for disruption. A man digging a large hole in his backyard at 2 in the morning is suspicious, but a man digging a foundation for a new garden shed, a fish pond, or a barbecue pit over the course of a weekend is just a typical homeowner. The tools are already there: shovels, wheelbarrows, rakes. The activity itself, seen in broad daylight, looks productive, not sinister. The crime is hidden behind the guise of a weekend project. The garage, the basement, these are liminal spaces, not quite inside the home, but not quite outside either. They are places for storage, for messy projects, for things we want to keep but don't want to look at every day. Think of John Christie, the notorious English serial killer of 10 Rillington Place. He hid his victims' bodies under the floorboards, in a sealed-off kitchen alcove, even in the garden. His neighbors complained of foul smells, but he explained them away as blocked drains or the results of his amateur medical experiments. The excuses were just plausible enough to deflect suspicion, playing on the common tolerance for a neighbor's eccentricities. The cleverness lies in using the mess itself as a form of camouflage. A pristine, empty basement might draw more questions than a cluttered one. Piles of junk, old furniture covered in dusty sheets, stacks of forgotten boxes. These things create a visual noise that distracts the eye. The evidence of a crime can be placed within this chaos, becoming just one more object in a sea of forgotten things. The killer is not meticulously hiding the object. They are hiding it within a larger context of neglect and disorganization. Who would bother to search through a decade's worth of junk? The mess becomes a fortress, protecting the secret at its core. This pattern extends beyond the home to the workplace. Consider the case of a factory worker or a long-haul trucker. Their environments often provide unique opportunities for concealment. A large, noisy factory floor has countless nooks and crannies. A vast industrial yard has piles of materials, shipping containers, heavy machinery. A criminal can use the inherent chaos and scale of their workplace to their advantage. A strange container, a freshly disturbed patch of ground in a massive storage lot, is unlikely to be noticed. The crime is hidden not by being small, but by being dwarfed by the industrial landscape around it. The method is always the same: blend the unnatural into the natural patterns of the environment. The most successful of these criminals do more than just hide evidence. They actively manipulate the social fabric of their community. They weaponize trust. They perform the role of the good neighbor with chilling precision. They organize the neighborhood watch. They volunteer at the local bake sale. They always have a friendly word for everyone. This is not an act of kindness. It is a calculated strategy of social inoculation. By building up a reservoir of goodwill, they make it almost impossible for anyone to suspect them. This was the terrifying genius of John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was a pillar of his suburban Chicago community. He was a successful contractor, a Democratic precinct captain, and he performed at children's parties as Pogo the Clown. He was well-liked, respected, politically active. When young men and boys began disappearing, no one pointed at Gacy. How could they? He threw the best summer block parties. His public persona created a powerful shield. That shield allowed him to murder at least 33 young men and boys, many buried in the crawl space beneath his house. The smell was explained away as moisture or dead rodents. This performance of normalcy creates a psychological barrier for law enforcement. When police canvass a neighborhood, they look for anomalies: the strange recluse, the known troublemaker, the person with a prior record. They're often not looking at the smiling, helpful man who offers a cup of coffee. The criminal who hides in plain sight knows this. They present as an ally, a concerned citizen. That misdirection can cost investigators precious time. While the killer watches from his front porch, the neighborhood becomes an unwitting accomplice. Collective belief in the killer's character reinforces the cover. If one person voiced a suspicion, they'd be dismissed. Oh, not him. He's such a nice guy. Group consensus normalizes the killer and isolates doubters. The community, seeking peace, inadvertently protects the monster. The criminal hasn't just hidden a body. They hijack the social structure, turning it into an extension of their crime scene, where trust is the deadliest weapon. The discovery isn't a single aha moment. It's a slow, creeping realization. It begins with a tiny crack in the facade of normalcy. It's a smell that won't go away. It's a patch of grass that never grows quite right. It's a piece of jewelry found in the dirt by a child. It's a new homeowner who decides to renovate a basement. These are the loose threads. At first they're dismissed, but they persist, nagging at the edge of perception. The ordinary world begins to feel off. Sensory details break through blindness. Smell is the most powerful, primal, bypassing our rational brain. A neighborhood that constantly smells of decay will eventually trigger an alarm. Visual cues are subtler. A concrete patch of a slightly different color. A section of a fence that looks newer than the rest. A tree that seems to be dying for no reason. Overlooked 100 times. On the 101st, they stand out. Realization is a chain reaction. One small suspicion, when shared, can gain momentum. A new homeowner may see a strange concrete slab as a hiding place. An investigator revisiting a cold case might suddenly connect an old tip about strange digging to the victim's last known location. Small details accumulate until they shatter the lie. This slow reveal forces people to reevaluate their reality. The friendly neighbor becomes monstrous. The familiar backyard becomes a place of horror. Every memory, Every casual interaction. The evidence was always there. They walked past it. They lived next to it. They perhaps even touched it. The background noise you ignored for years suddenly resolves into a scream. The world hasn't changed. Your perception has been broken forever. Section 5. The digital ghost in the machine. In the modern era, the concept of hiding in plain sight has evolved. The backyard, the basement, have been joined by a new virtual space, the digital world. Today's criminals can hide their secrets not under concrete, but within the endless clutter of a hard drive, a social media profile, the vastness of the internet. The same principles of psychological blindness apply. We are surrounded by so much data, so much digital noise, that we become numb to it. The evidence of a crime can be an innocuous-looking file, an anonymous online comment, a photograph that seems normal at first glance. It is hidden within a digital landscape so vast it becomes invisible. Consider the criminal who uses a public photo-sharing website. They might upload hundreds of mundane pictures, sunsets, family vacations, pictures of their pet. Buried among them could be a single, horrific image, a trophy from their crime. Who would ever find it? An investigator would have to sift through terabytes of data. The sheer volume creates a form of camouflage. The criminal is counting on the fact that no one has the time or the inclination to look that closely. They are hiding their secret in a digital haystack, knowing that the needle is almost impossible to find without knowing exactly what you are looking for. Social media profiles can be another form of digital concealment. A killer can maintain a perfectly curated online persona. They post inspirational quotes, share funny memes, wish their friends a happy birthday. They build a digital identity that is as wholesome and non-threatening as the real-world persona of a smiling neighbor. This online facade serves the same purpose. It builds trust and deflects suspicion. It creates a character that seems incapable of violence. Meanwhile, in private messages or on encrypted apps, they may be planning their next crime. Their digital life a carefully constructed lie designed to hide the monster behind the keyboard. This digital camouflage presents a new and profound challenge for investigators. The modern crime scene is no longer just a physical space, it is also a collection of data streams, IP addresses, deleted files. The slow reveal now happens on a screen, as a digital forensic expert painstakingly pieces together fragments of information. A deleted search history, a GPS location point from a seemingly innocent photo, a stray comment on a forgotten forum. These are the new cracks in the concrete. And for the criminal hiding in plain sight, it is a silent witness that sooner or later may learn how to speak. And for the criminal hiding in plain sight, it is a silent witness that sooner or later may learn how to speak. Section 1. The first call. The investigation begins not with a bang, but with a phone call. A trembling voice on the line, a new homeowner, stammering, trying to describe the unimaginable. They were just renovating. They were just breaking up the floor. They thought it was a pipe. They thought it was an animal, but it wasn't. The call sends a jolt through the quiet afternoon at the police station. Dispatchers react, trained for this, but hoping they never get it. The ordinary shatters. A home improvement project becomes a homicide investigation. A house becomes a crime scene. First officers on Melrose Avenue, not detectives. Patrol cops arrive. They secure the scene. They keep people back. They preserve evidence. They walk into the Clayson's home. Dust of renovation, promise of a new life. Down the rickety basement stairs, flashlights into a dark pit. The beam hits broken concrete. The beam hits dark soil. The beam hits the corner of a brittle green tarp. The shape is unmistakable from a distance. The smell is undeniable. Officers exchange a look. This is real. They clear the house immediately. Yellow tape across the front yard. A bright dividing line. Neighbors gather on the sidewalk, drawn by flashing lights, whispering, asking what's going on. Is everything okay? They see the house differently now. The yellow tape has transformed it. Not just a house, a place with a dark secret. The investigation begins. The neighborhood changed. Calls go out to detectives, to the coroner, to the forensic unit. A team assembles, people who walk into nightmares for the truth. They're told, a possible human body, buried in a basement, under a concrete floor. Seasoned investigators do the grim calculus. Not random, deliberate, concealment. Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide it. The first question, who lived here before? The first question they ask is not who is buried here. The first question is, Who lived here before? The forensic team descends into the basement. They move with a quiet, methodical purpose. This is their domain. The basement is no longer a room. It is a grid. Every inch is measured, photographed, and documented. They work under harsh, bright lights, a stark contrast to the darkness that has held this secret for so long. Their tools are not hammers and saws, but brushes, dental picks, and evidence bags. They are archaeologists of the macabre, carefully excavating not an ancient civilization but a modern crime. Every speck of dirt, every fragment of concrete, could be a piece of the puzzle. They are listening to what the silent witness has to say. The first step is to remove the body with the utmost care. The skeleton, which they now know belongs to a woman, is fragile. Years in the damp earth have taken their toll. As they gently brush away the dirt, they find more than just bones. They find remnants of clothing, fibers that have miraculously survived the long decay. They find a small, tarnished piece of metal near the skull, an earring perhaps. Each tiny discovery is a victory, another word in the story the victim is trying to tell. The green plastic tarp that wrapped the body is carefully collected. It could hold fingerprints, DNA, or trace evidence from the killer. Upstairs, other detectives are starting a different kind of excavation. They are digging into the past. They pull the property records for the house on Melrose Avenue. They build a timeline of everyone who has ever lived there. The name that quickly rises to the top is Michael P. He lived in the house for decades. He lived there during the time the forensic experts estimate the body was buried. He was a handyman. He worked with concrete. The pieces begin to click into place, forming the chilling outline of a suspect. The quiet, reclusive man who died a few years ago is now the center of a murder investigation. The forensic team in the basement makes another discovery. The victim's skull has a fracture. It is a specific type of injury, consistent with blunt force trauma. This was not a peaceful death. This was a violent end. The silent witness has finally spoken its most important truth. This was murder. The investigation now has a victim, a cause of death, and a prime suspect. The focus shifts from the what to the who and the why. They must now prove that Michael P., the quiet man from Melrose Avenue, was not just a handyman, he was a killer. With a suspect in their sights, investigators begin the painstaking process of rebuilding a life. But they are not rebuilding the victim's life, they are rebuilding the killer's. They need to understand Michael P. They need to get inside his head, to see the world as he saw it. They start by talking to the neighbors, the ones who remember him. They hear the same words over and over. Quiet, loner, kept to himself, harmless. Each description adds another layer to the mask he wore. The detectives listen patiently. Behind the mask of the quiet man is the face of a murderer. They are looking for the cracks in that mask. They reopen the old missing persons file for Joanne, Michael's wife. The file is thin, dusty from years on a shelf. It tells the story of a dead-end investigation. It contains Michael's original statement. She left him. She joined a religious group. The detectives read the old typewritten pages, and a cold anger begins to form. He lied. He lied to her family. He lied to the police. And everyone believed him. His story was the perfect camouflage because it was exactly what people were willing to accept. It was easier to believe a woman had left than to believe a husband had killed her. The investigation turns to Joanne's family. The detectives have to make a phone call that is even harder than the first one. They have to tell a family that has been living in a state of uncertain limbo for 15 years that their daughter, their sister, is not coming home. They have to tell them that she has been found, and they have to tell them where. The news is devastating, a fresh wave of grief on top of years of sorrow. But it is also a form of closure, the agonizing question of where has finally been answered. Now they have a new question. Why? The family provides the investigators with crucial information. They talk about the couple's troubled marriage. They describe Michael's jealousy, his controlling nature. They recount how he isolated Joanne from her friends and family in the months before she disappeared. A new picture of Michael begins to emerge. He was not just a quiet loner, he was a possessive and abusive husband. The facade of the harmless handyman is crumbling, revealing the monster underneath. The detectives now have a motive. The crime was not random. It was the final, terrible act of domestic violence. As the investigation deepens, detectives uncover more about Michael's life in the years after the murder. He became even more of a recluse. He rarely had visitors. He quit his job. He lived off his savings, further isolating himself from the outside world. It was as if he was serving his own kind of prison sentence. Trapped in the house with the constant silent reminder of his crime just a few feet below him. every creak of the floorboards, every step he took in his own home, a constant reminder. The house was not just his home, it was his self-imposed tomb. Investigators interview a former co-worker from the 1980s. The man recalls a strange conversation just after Joanne disappeared. Michael came to work with scratches on his face and arms. He said he'd fought with overgrown rose bushes. At the time, the co-worker thought nothing of it, but 15 years later, the memory takes on a sinister new meaning. The scratches were not from rose bushes. They were defensive wounds, marks of Joanne's final, desperate struggle for her life. This is a common setback in these investigations. Key witnesses often don't realize the significance of small, strange details until years later. Their memories are faded, clouded by time, a casual remark, a strange scratch, an odd day of digging in the yard. Things that seemed insignificant then are crucial now, filtered through unreliable memory. Detectives must separate fact from speculation, building a case from old conversations and half-forgotten observations. The emotional weight settles heavily on everyone involved. The Klassens, the new homeowners, are traumatized. Their dream home is forever tainted. Joanne's family must relive their worst nightmare. Investigators feel the pressure. They have a victim who can no longer speak for herself. They have a killer beyond the reach of justice, dead of natural causes. Their goal shifts, not conviction, but delivering the truth, to officially close the case, to give Joanne her name back, to finally hold Michael P. accountable, even in death. The final pieces of the puzzle come not from the basement, but from the paper trail Michael left behind. Investigators execute a search warrant on his old bank records, personal effects pulled from storage. They are looking for anything that can connect him directly to the crime. They sift through boxes of old receipts, letters, junk. It's a tedious, thankless task. But then they find it. A receipt from a hardware store, dated just a few days after Joanne was last seen. The receipt lists 3 bags of quickset concrete mix and a brand new shovel. This is the linchpin. Physical proof linking Michael to the timeline. He didn't just pour a concrete slab. He bought the materials immediately after his wife vanished. It was not a home improvement project planned over weeks. It was an urgent, desperate act of concealment. The receipt, a voice from the grave, his transactional history testifying against him. It corroborates the family story, the co-worker's memory, the forensic evidence from the basement. The lie he had so carefully constructed for 15 years has completely unraveled. The investigators also find old photographs. In one picture, taken a year before Joanne's disappearance, Michael stands in the backyard. Behind him, leaning against the house, an old weathered green tarp, identical to the one found wrapped around the body. It was just a tarp, a common household object. It sat there in plain sight for months, maybe years. No one would have given it a second thought. But it was his intended tool. He was waiting for the moment he would use it. The evidence was not just hidden in plain sight after the crime. It was waiting in plain sight before the crime was even committed. The Akron Police Department holds a press conference. They officially declare Joanne's death a homicide. They name her husband, the late Michael P., as the sole suspect. They lay out the evidence, piece by painstaking piece. The concrete, the tarp, the receipt, the family, the lies he told. The case is officially closed. There will be no trial, no conviction, no prison sentence. But there is a resolution. The truth, buried under a slab of concrete and 15 years of lies, is finally brought into the light. The investigation is over. The quiet man of Melrose Avenue has been exposed as a monster. The press conference ends. The cameras are turned off. But for the residents of Melrose Avenue, the story is far from over. The yellow police tape comes down, but an invisible barrier remains. The house, once just a house, is now a landmark of horror. Cars slow down as they drive past. People point and whisper. It is no longer the Klassens' house, or even Michael P.'s old house. It is the murder house. The community is left to grapple with the aftermath, the chilling echo of a crime that was committed in their midst. A secret they lived alongside for a decade and a half without ever knowing it was there. The neighbors who once described Michael as quiet and harmless are forced to confront a disturbing new reality. Their memories are now tainted, recontextualized by the gruesome discovery. Every brief wave, every polite nod, every time they saw him working in his yard is now viewed through a lens of profound horror. They question their own judgment, their own perceptions. How could they have been so wrong? How could they have lived so close to a killer, and see nothing. A quiet shame settles over the neighborhood, a collective guilt for having missed the monster that walked among them, hiding his evil behind a mask of utter mediocrity. The story of Joanne's discovery becomes a local legend, a cautionary tale told to children. The house on Melrose Avenue becomes a ghost story rooted in terrifying fact. The community's sense of security is shattered. If a man like Michael P. could hide such a monstrous secret for so long, then who else could be hiding something? The friendly face next door is no longer a source of comfort, but a potential source of suspicion. The trust that holds a neighborhood together is fractured, replaced by a lingering unease, a quiet paranoia that is difficult to shake. The crime did not just take one life, it stole the innocence of an entire community. For the Claysons, the family who simply wanted to build a home, the dream is dead. They cannot live in the house. They cannot unsee what they saw in the basement. They cannot erase the knowledge of what lies in the foundation of their home, both literally and figuratively. The house becomes an unsellable property, a monument to a tragedy they accidentally uncovered. Their lives are forever entwined with the story of Michael and Joanne. They were the ones who cracked the concrete. They were the ones who let the truth escape its tomb. They are the unwilling final characters in a story that ended long before they ever arrived on Melrose Avenue. The case of Michael and Joanne forces us to have a reckoning with our own definition of normalcy. We are taught to look for the obvious signs of danger, aggression, erratic behavior, a history of violence. We are not taught to be suspicious of silence. We are not taught to fear the mundane. Michael P. was a master of exploiting this bias. He understood that a performance of utter blandness was the most effective shield he could possibly create. His crime was not just the murder itself, but the 15-year-long gaslighting of an entire community, convincing them that the absence of drama meant the absence of evil. This pattern is a terrifying lesson in human psychology. It demonstrates how deeply we are conditioned to accept the surface of things. We see a mowed lawn and we assume a responsible homeowner. We see a quiet neighbor and we assume a private person. We do not see the potential for darkness that can exist behind that facade. We are, by nature, trusting creatures. Our society is built on the assumption that most people are good. Criminals like Michael P. are social predators who use this fundamental aspect of our humanity as their primary weapon, turning our own best instincts against us in the most cynical way imaginable. The aftermath of such a discovery forces a community to reevaluate its social contract. The easy trust is gone. People start to notice things they never paid attention to before. A neighbor's late-night project in the garage, once ignored, now seems suspicious. The new concrete poured for a patio across the street now warrants a second, more probing look. This heightened state of alert is emotionally exhausting. It is the price of a shattered illusion. The world has not become more dangerous. Rather, the veil has been lifted to show the dangers that were always there, lurking just beneath the surface of the ordinary. This is the great lesson from the grave. The most monstrous acts are often committed by the most unremarkable people. The serial killer is not always the wild-eyed lunatic of cinematic lore. They are often the helpful neighbor, the respected community member, the quiet co-worker. They have learned to wear normalcy like a costume, a perfect camouflage that allows them to move through our world undetected. The aftermath of their discovery is a brutal reminder that we must learn to look past the performance, to question the mundane, to understand that evil does not always announce its presence with a roar. Sometimes it, whispers from the house next door. Section 3. The unanswered question, why? With the case officially closed, a legal and factual resolution has been reached. We know who did it, we know how he did it, we know where he hid the evidence, but the most haunting question remains, a question that echoes in the minds of Joanne's family and the investigators who pieced the story together. Why? Because Michael P. took the ultimate answer to his grave. We are left to sift through the psychological wreckage of his life, searching for a motive that makes sense of the senseless. We know he was controlling and jealous, but what was the final trigger? What was the final argument that pushed him from domestic abuse to brutal murder? This is perhaps the most unsettling part of the aftermath for everyone involved. Without a confession, without a trial, there is no final narrative. There is no moment of accountability where the killer is forced to confront his actions and explain them. Michael P. escaped justice in life, and in death, he continues to exert a form of control by withholding the final piece of the story. His silence is a final, posthumous act of cruelty against Joanne's family, denying them the full truth of her last moments. They are left with the cold, hard facts of the crime, but not the human reason, however twisted, behind it. Psychologists and criminal profilers can offer theories. They might speak of narcissistic rage, of a fragile ego that could not handle the thought of his wife leaving him. They might suggest that the murder was not pre-planned, but a spontaneous explosion of violence during a fight, and that the concealment was a panicked, desperate attempt to erase his mistake. The act of burying her in the basement, directly under his feet, could be seen as a twisted form of possession, a way to ensure she could never truly leave him. He lived on top of his secret, a constant, physical manifestation of his dominance, even over her death. But these are just theories. They are, educated guesses that attempt to impose a logical framework onto an act of pure, irrational evil. The truth is, we will never know for certain what was going through Michael P.'s mind. The why is buried with him, as surely as Joanne was buried in his basement. This lack of a final answer is its own kind of trauma. It leaves a void that can never be filled. A question mark that will forever hang over the house on Melrose Avenue. The story has an ending, but it does not have a conclusion. And that is a uniquely painful burden for the living to carry. The cello holds a final, sorrowful, unresolved note. For the investigators who solved the crime, there is a sense of professional satisfaction. They gave a name to the nameless. They brought a measure of truth to a family that had waited for so long. But this victory is bittersweet. It is accompanied by the heavy burden of knowledge. They have stared into the abyss of what one human being is capable of doing to another. They have walked through the house. They breathed the air. They pieced together the final, terrifying moments of a young woman's life. This knowledge changes a person. It can chip away at one's faith in humanity, leaving behind a cynical and hardened view of the world. They are also left with the haunting what-ifs. What if someone had reported Michael P.'s controlling behavior sooner? What if the original missing person investigation had been more skeptical of his story? These are not accusations. They are the mournful reflections of professionals who know how thin the line between life and death can be. They understand that the system and society itself is not designed to catch the quiet monsters. It is designed to catch the loud ones. The case of Michael P. becomes a permanent part of their professional memory. A stark example of a killer who almost got away with it, not through brilliance, but through blandness. The burden of knowledge also falls upon Joanne's family. For 15 years, they lived with the pain of not knowing. Now, they live with the pain of knowing everything. They have the gruesome details, the timeline of the murder, the knowledge of where their daughter lay for all those years while they searched for her. This new knowledge is a different kind of agony. It replaces the ghost of uncertainty with the monster of reality. Every time they think of the house on Melrose Avenue, they will have a clear, horrific image in their minds of what was in the basement. Closure is not a simple thing. Sometimes it brings a whole new world of pain. This is the hidden cost of a crime hidden in plain sight. When the truth is finally revealed, it does not simply heal old wounds. It creates new ones. The knowledge of the crime ripples outward, touching everyone from the new homeowners to the original investigators, from the neighbors to the victim's family. They are all bound together by a shared, terrible secret that was once kept by only one man. They carry the weight of his crime. The silence of the house has been broken, but the silence has been replaced by a truth that is, in its own way, just as heavy and just as suffocating. If there are lessons to be learned from the grave Joanne was forced to occupy, they are quiet, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. Trust your instincts. Neighbors on Melrose Avenue might not have consciously suspected Michael P., but a feeling of unease often surrounds people who harbor dark secrets. We dismiss these feelings as irrational. We tell ourselves not to be paranoid. That small nagging feeling that something is off is your subconscious picking up tiny cracks in a facade. Listen to that voice. Patterns of domestic abuse and coercive control are giant, flashing red lights. Joanne's family knew Michael was possessive and isolating. These behaviors are precursors to violence. Communities must learn the signs of domestic abuse. Friends, family, neighbors. Silence and non-interference let predators operate behind closed doors. Pay attention to the unusual and the mundane. Sudden, unplanned construction. A neighbor digging up their yard at odd hours. A foul smell that won't go away. These details, in hindsight, scream of concealment. Make it okay to report strange activity. An anonymous tip might be nothing, or it might be the thread investigators pull to unravel something much larger. Michael P's story is a reminder of our fallibility. We are all susceptible to inattentional blindness. We want to believe the world is safe. The lesson: vigilance born of awareness, not fear. An awareness that evil can wear the mask of normalcy. An awareness that secrets can hide in the soil beneath our feet. An awareness that the most important truths are staring us in the face, waiting for us to open our eyes. We began our journey tonight with a simple, chilling promise. A promise of a reveal. A promise that an ordinary object, a forgotten corner of a home, held the key to a terrible crime. We took you to Melrose Avenue, the quiet house of a quiet man. A new family arrives with a jackhammer and the desire to build a new life. They cracked open a 15-year-old tomb. The concrete floor in Michael P's basement was not just a floor, it was the centerpiece of his deception. It was the physical manifestation of his ability to hide the most horrific secret in the most mundane place imaginable. He hid his crime not in the shadows, but right under his own 2 feet. This is the very essence of evil that hides in plain sight. It is not dramatic. It is not theatrical. It is banal. It is the quiet neighbor who waves as you get your mail. It is the handyman who pours his own concrete floor. It is the community pillar who hosts the best summer block parties. The criminals we have explored tonight, from Michael P. to John Wayne Gacy, understood a fundamental truth about human nature. They knew that we are so conditioned by the rhythms of everyday life that we are blind to the horrors that can exist within it. They weaponized normalcy, turning our trust and our desire for a peaceful world into their greatest shield. Their method is shockingly consistent and terrifyingly effective. They wrap their monstrous deeds in layers of the mundane. A garden project hides a grave. The clutter of a garage conceals a trophy. The endless noise of a digital photo gallery obscures a single, damning image. They create a performance of such profound mediocrity that it deflects all suspicion. They know that we, as human beings, are programmed to look away from the things that make us uncomfortable. We want to believe our neighbors are good people. They count on this. They use our own decency and our own psychological blind spots as the foundation for their lies. The lesson from these stories is a difficult one to accept. It is the realization that danger does not always look dangerous. It often looks quiet, normal, and utterly unremarkable. The evil is not in the dramatic act, but in the sustained, meticulous performance of being just like everyone else. It is in the lie that is lived every single day, for years, until the killer themselves almost seems to believe it. The most terrifying monsters are not the ones that look like monsters. And so, we leave you tonight, back where we started. We are back in our own homes, on our own streets, surrounded by the familiar. But perhaps things look a little different now. Perhaps the house on the corner with its perfectly manicured garden holds a new, unsettling quality. Perhaps the sound of a neighbor's late-night work in their garage now carries a different weight. The stories we have shared are not meant to make you live in fear. They are meant to make you look closer, to pay attention to the details that hide in plain sight, to listen to the quiet whisper of your own intuition when it tells you that something is wrong. The truth is, these cases are the ones we know about. They are the secrets that were eventually unearthed, the concrete that was finally cracked. They are the killers who made one small mistake, or whose luck eventually ran out when a new family decided to renovate a basement. The most chilling thought is not about the crimes that have been solved, it is about the ones that have not. How many other killers have been more careful? How many other secrets remain perfectly concealed beneath a layer of concrete, under a patch of well-tended flowers, behind a wall of digital noise? How many monsters are still successfully performing their role as the quiet neighbor? The danger is not that your neighbor is a serial killer. The odds are overwhelmingly that they are not. The danger is in our collective complacency. The danger is in our willingness to accept surfaces without ever questioning what lies beneath them. The danger is in our assumption that because something looks normal, it must be normal. The evil that hides in plain sight relies on this complacency to survive. It thrives in the soil of our inattention. It builds its foundation on our desire to look away. The silence of the community is the ecosystem in which these secrets are allowed to fester for years, or even for a lifetime. We end with a quiet warning and a lingering question that we hope stays with you. Remember that the world is filled with surfaces, and that evil is a master of disguise. It can look like anything: a friendly smile, a neat lawn, a dusty shelf, a concrete floor. The evidence is not always hidden. Sometimes, it is right there, waiting for someone to finally see it for what it truly is. Look around you. Look at the familiar spaces you inhabit every day. What else are we all missing? What other truths are hiding right now in plain sight?